As a front-end developer, I never really thought about how the web actually works. I mean, understanding the whole journey from typing website name into the search bar to seeing it appear in my browser. I only cared about building websites and I thought these things didn't matter at all. But then, during an interview, I was asked, "Can you explain how the web works?" And I completely struggled to answer. That's when I realized I needed to learn and truly understand what happens under the hood. So in this video, I'll share with you what I have learned about how the web works. We won't dive too deep into things like networking or protocols. Instead, we'll focus on the essential parts to get an overall idea of what's happening behind the scenes. My name is Saleh and this is the first video of the Web 101 series. The World Wide Web works on a client-server model where clients are the typical web user's internet-connected devices. In simple terms, the device you're using to access the web. Servers are computers that store web pages, sites, or apps. As we mentioned earlier, every website lives on a server, and each server has a unique location called an IP address, like this one. To access a website, your browser needs to know the address where that site lives. But in real life, we don't type IP addresses directly. It would be impossible to remember them all for every website. That's why we use domain names. In simple terms, domain names are human-friendly labels that are easy to remember. The problem is, browsers still need the IP address. This is where DNS comes in, the domain name system. Its job is to translate the easy-to-remember domain name into the corresponding IP address. So every time you type a domain name into your browser, the browser sends a request to a DNS server, which converts the name into the IP address and hands it back to the browser. Now, the browser knows exactly where to go to find the website. Now that the browser knows the server's address, the next step is to establish a connection with it. This happens using something called TCP, which stands for Transmission Control Protocol. I won't dive too deep here, but here's the key idea. TCP is like the delivery system for the web. It's a transport layer protocol, which means its job isn't about what the data means, but about making sure the data actually gets delivered. Think of it like this. When your browser and the server start talking, TCP acts like a group of traffic officers on the road between them. These officers make sure that every piece of data gets through, the data arrives in the right order, and if something gets lost along the way, it's automatically resent. In short, TCP ensures the path between your browser and the server is safe, reliable, and organized, allowing the actual web content to travel smoothly. After the TCP connection is established, the browser and server are finally ready to talk to each other. The language they both use is called HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. I'll cover it in detail in a future video, but here's what you need to know for now. Communication on the web happens through HTTP messages. These messages are made up of multiple HTTP requests and responses. The browser sends an HTTP request to the server, asking for something like a web page, an image, or a video. The server replies with an HTTP response, which usually includes the requested content and some extra information, like the stats of the request. In simple terms, HTTP is a set of rules and format that lets the browser and server understand each other, once TCP has created a safe road for the data. Now that the browser has collected all the pieces of the website, the final step is to put them together and display the page. I'll cover this in detail in a future video, but here's the big picture. The browser reads the HTML, applies the CSS for styling, and runs the JS for interactivity. Piece by piece, it builds the structure, adds the design, and wires up the behavior, until finally the complete interactive web page appears on your screen. And that's a wrap on how the web works. I'll drop all the resources I used to learn this topic down in the description, so you can check them out too. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might find it useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.